me go live. And let me see if this loads here. Oh my God. I think I fixed it. Can someone confirm? Because I can see myself on the screen. Now, Vanessa, can you say something real quick so people can
I'll
confirm?
say a few words. Hopefully the words are coming through.
Welcome everyone. Many apologies for these issues. I will do now for the third time a little introduction of Vanessa, who is one of the great luminaries in this space, or not only on Elrond but across other chains. Has vast experience in Web 2, but has been in Web 3 for a long time as well. Very excited to just sort of talk about all kinds of different things. The big news today, women in crypto. We'll maybe get some time to talk about meditation and sort of like strategy and chess, and how crypto and chess maybe are somehow interconnected. We'll also take audience questions, so if you have any questions at any point, just let us know. I'll ask them when we move on to the chess part. First, I would love to know, and Vanessa will now try to tell you guys her story while you can hear her, because it's very interesting. You actually got your start in crypto all the way back in 2000 with like trying to solve a little riddle.
Yeah. So, thank you. I really appreciate that every time you've done the intro, my title grows in stature. So I think this time when I was the Great Tech Luminary, which I will definitely take. I'm going to have to put that on my business card.
Yep.
Very, very much a pleasure to be here, Lucas, and thank you for surfing through all the tech challenges to get us all going live. So a little bit about me. I mean, why am I here? We're all talking about Web3 and crypto, and we've got so many options, different blockchains, different cryptocurrencies now. When I first started getting involved in crypto, which is around the year 2000, we had none of this. We didn't even have a blockchain. Like, that wasn't a thing. I was studying, I don't want to make it sound like I was too technical, but I was definitely studying cryptographic systems at college with the idea that anonymous digital cash, I felt, was something interesting, not just from a technical perspective, looking at the cryptographic algorithms that would do things like detect double spend, but also from a societal perspective, that cash has a lot of properties today. It's anonymous, it's fungible, it can be transacted peer-to-peer. Essentially, it's trustless. You really just have to trust the issuer. You don't have to trust the person kind of moving the cash around. And so a lot of these properties had yet to be replicated in the digital world. And so that's what drew me to the concept of anonymous digital cash. At the time, there were companies like DigiCash that were around, but they all struggled from a couple problems. I think the one I found most funny was the idea that you could copy your digital cash onto your smart card, which was a thing back then, and that if you lost your smart card, you'd lose your cash. So they had to build systems to back up your cash, as it were. And you can see blockchain obviously solves that problem, but it solves a more important problem of a trusted intermediary not being necessary. So one of the challenges in any of the systems that were set up is, what happens if DigiCash or Beans or Flues or any variation of these cash protocols goes out of business? Well, suddenly you're left with useless bits on your hard drive. And that's a problem that Bitcoin and blockchain have to a large degree solved. And so we fast forward 20 years and we're in a really good spot. For me, when I graduated with a degree in computer science. I went astray, I would say, into a lot more traditional tech. So I joined Microsoft straight out of college. Very blessed to have done that. They're an amazing company, especially to learn your craft. Spent almost 10 years at Microsoft working on just about every area of the company. I'd say that the place I'm most infamous for is helping to launch the first version of Zune. If you remember, iPods failed. Microsoft's failed iPod competitor. That was, partly me. But lots of fun there. And then, got a chance to move fully into Web 2. So I'd say most of my work at Microsoft was on applications, although I did help the folks launch the first version of the Office web apps. That was, the last thing I did before leaving Microsoft. But then at Google, got to jump into Web 2 completely. And so, did ads, did domains, did a lot of the foundation today that you think of Web 2. And just before I left Google, I was heading up the team doing the community help forum. So, community being a Web 2 thing, but also very much a Web 3 thing that we're used to.
Can I ask you about that transition? Because it's obviously Microsoft was sort of here, and then Google came in as sort of like the new innovator in the Web 2 space, and obviously took over completely. Was that sort of a transition that you were thinking about, like sort of thinking of Google as, I don't know, the future of tech as well? Was that something that attracted you, or was it just, hi, Stephen, by the way, people can hear us, which is awesome. Yeah. Was that something that was sort of like a deliberate move that you saw as, moving into the future with that as well?
There was a little bit of intentionality behind it, but maybe not in the direction you think. I'd always, back at the time, if you scroll back to, 2008, 2009, I was very much admiring Google for not just the technology that they were producing, but also the way they were about in the world. And so I think that was around the time when Google had decided that because of human rights abuses, they would pull out of China. And that for me was a big deal to see Google's response to that. Now, obviously they've grown and changed, but back then, like, don't be evil was really a thing I felt like the company stood for and was part of what drew me to be interested in them. And then to watch Microsoft's response, which is very different, which is, hey, we'll just carry on. And, I understand the business concerns, but I was fairly young and naive back then. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't want to be evil. I want to be a force for good in the world. That's something that's really important to me. But I never thought in my wildest dreams I could work for Google. And then one day out of the blue, Amazon actually sent me an email saying, hey, send us your resume. We'd like to have you meet with someone. And so I put together my resume and I thought, what the heck? It's here. Let me just send it over to Google. So Amazon never got back to me. Google did. And it worked out very well in my favor. So you're very happy with that.
Did you cover the copy the cover letter as well, basically? Or did you...
It was...
Did you make the effort?
It was text, so I don't think there was a cover letter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was just a, here it is, deal with it.
Well, amazing that worked out. And then, obviously, after leaving Google, or when did you decide that it was time to sort of move on from there to, get into the newest thing?
Yeah, so it was probably around, my journey with crypto continues a little bit. It was 2013 or 2014 when I first discovered, Bitcoin as a thing that was actually happening and a thing you could get involved in. And I was very much at the point of like, okay, I'm going to jump in with 2 feet and start to explore this. And it seemed so sketchy. I'd opened up a Mt. Gox account. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, let me go here. And just everything I heard was like, this is, a Ponzi scheme. Everyone's a criminal, da-da-da. And then Mt. Gox ended up going under. Then there was Silk Road. And I'm like, I'm out. Maybe anonymous digital cash is not actually a good thing. And
did you keep what you had, or did you sell everything and then left?
I never actually bought in.
Gotcha.
If I had, I would have lost it because it was on Mt. Gox. And, it is what it is. But it was probably around 2017 when a lot of my friends were talking about it, Bitcoin, Ethereum. I'm like, okay, these are all Ponzi's. I'm going to throw in a little bit of money, but I just kind of ignored it. And the market went up, the market went down. And it was in 2019 when I discovered Compound and started to learn a bit more about DeFi. And something in me clicked. It's like, okay, this is no longer just a Ponzi scheme hoping that a greater fool will buy your Bitcoin. This is actually disintermediating the financial system and creating a new financial system for the world. And that was just fascinating to me. We've seen just over the last few years, a ton of protocols on Ethereum. You can look at Curve or Aave, or, it could go on and on. You look at all the protocols, even on, Elrond, which is fairly much in its infancy, starting to build up that financial system on the blockchain to do it in a way that's trustless, that allows people to engage regardless of which country they're living in. And so it has a lot of promise. And to me, that promise really drew me in. And so I was interested, as I was looking at the next stage of my career, to start to dive into some of Web3 and to learn about Web3 and to work at a crypto company. And so I was, fortunate enough to get a role at a company called Permission, where I was the chief product officer for about 5 or 6 months. For me, what I realized as the time was going by was that they were less of a pure crypto company and more kind of focused on web advertising with crypto. And that wasn't really where I wanted to spend most of my time. And so I was, then looking around, I found Celsius and Celsius X. And I can't talk too much about them. I think my marketing guys would be a little upset if I went off script. But they basically were in the area that I wanted to spend a lot of time and to learn on. Deep in DeFi, they've got the Celsius X bridge, and they've created CX tokens, and a lot of that was really exciting to me. Like, this is the forefront of Web3, and this is where I wanted to learn and get involved in.
Yeah, and so I mean, I know that you were sort of big on Luna. You were in. I mean, let's talk about that first, right? It's hard to sort of in hindsight, a lot of things are, I think, a lot more clear. And if you mentioned the word Ponzi scheme, so I mean, it's interesting that something as big as Luna still has the potential to just be wiped out like it was. Do you see any coming back from this? Do you have any like hope for the protocol? I mean, I know you bought some, and I did too. At the sort of what I thought was maybe the bottom, but it wasn't. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Luna's a very complicated beast. So I first discovered it when it was probably about $6 or $7, about a year and some change ago. And to me, the whole seigniorage mechanism, which for folks who are watching aren't aware, is basically a way to exchange a stable coin, UST, stablecoin, for Luna and vice versa. Yeah, formerly known as stablecoin. And the ability to maintain its peg, because you could always exchange it back and forth and people would arbitrage. And so, on its face of it, everyone is all excited because the market cap of UST was growing and Luna itself was being burned and the price is going up. And I hesitated to get in because I'm like, okay, well, what happens when it goes in the other direction? And the price goes down, obviously, because you're now minting more Luna. And as we know, what happened is they minted it to oblivion. But one thing that I started to really deeply appreciate is that if you look at the different cryptocurrencies that are out there, specifically stablecoins, you've got USDC, which is very much centralized controls, can be turned off. So, someone can come and turn off your USDC. Not turn off the blockchain, that's based on Ethereum and various other chains, but your specific coins. So it didn't have the one property that I thought crypto needed to have, which is this idea of anyone can use it without controls. It's fully decentralized, full ownership over your own coins. It didn't have that property. USDT doesn't have that property either. I'd say DAI is closer to that. And there's challenges when you go to sort of fully collateralized as a coin. It really inhibits the ability for it to grow. And so one of the things I was really excited about for Luna was just the plethora of financial protocols that they had built. From obviously Anchor Protocol being the cornerstone or the capstone of Luna, and the ability to lend and to borrow, but also everything from Prism Protocol, which was doing kind of yield curves and separating yield and principal. You had Mars and Edge and just a ton of other really innovative protocols using the blockchain to build something that was a replica of the traditional financial system, but do it in a way that was faster and better. And oh, by the way, interoperable, because you've got Cosmos with its IBC, and so you can interoperate with any Cosmos chain just naturally. And then there was the Terra Bridge and the Wormhole Bridge, which brought funds not only from the outside in, but also allowed UST to be brought to multiple different blockchains. And so it felt like to me that as long as they could reach critical mass in terms of consistent growth of UST and the ability for them to over time collateralize it, even partially with something like a hard currency like Bitcoin, that if they achieve that escape velocity, then this is just a good for the world. And I know, a lot of folks will say, well, it's not fully decentralized. There's only so many validators. Its minimum TAC vector is whatever it was, 4 or 5. But I think that's kind of missing the point. It was centralized and decentralizing over time, which all crypto does. Auron's doing that. Cardano is doing that. And I think, everyone is going to say, well, with Luna, it was obvious that it would fail. But I have not seen a single person say the specific attack vector that caused it to fail. Everyone is focused on the seigniorage mechanism and the mint and burn. That's not what caused it to fail. That's not what lost its peg. Luna lost its peg because it had UST lost its peg because it had UST in liquidity pools that were outside of its ecosystem. And so the attack, we think it's an attack. I'm hopeful, more information will come out over time. Basically looked like a timing attack based on UST moving from a 3-pool on Curve to a 4-pool. 4-pool would be more stable, would have made the cost of any attack much larger. So there was some timing in how the Terra Foundation, Luna Foundation guard was moving money around. And they basically drained all the UST liquidity from that pool. Then they went to Binance and they drained all the UST from that pool. And so that caused it to depeg. Now, it was depegging slightly on-chain, but not a lot. But over time, because of the attack, it depegged horrifically off-chain to the point that it actually promoted the run on the bank. So when you're sitting at 70, 60 cents UST, everyone's going to be like, I've just got to get out now.
Yeah.
But that didn't actually happen on-chain. It happened off-chain. So the attack was off-chain. And that was, I'll be honest, not something that I predicted. I thought the on-chain mechanism would do well, and it did well until the off-chain attack just pushed it over the edge. So, I'm not sure. Clearly it failed. Clearly there was something around the financial incentives and the economic mechanism that was attached to it that didn't work. But dang, it got close. Because I think if it had gotten to the 4-pool, it would be, we'd be talking about Luna 20 years from now.
Do you think there's any coming back from it, or is it finito?
It's difficult because I think a lot of trust has been lost. And I don't think they can stand up a stable coin that's algorithmic in any way and have a straight face at this point.
No.
Even if it's fully collateralized, I think they have lost a lot of trust. So I think that's a tremendous hurdle. However, the protocols that were built on top of Terra and the Terra ecosystem are best in class. Like I've never seen any protocols as robust anywhere. One of the other ones that I didn't mention was something called kinetic money. This whole idea that you can take a loan and the loan pays for itself. That's just, it kind of blows your mind. And the way it does it is, around looking at staking and using that yield to kind of pay down the loan, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of complexity in how it actually accomplishes the mechanism. But the fact that you can take a loan and then over time it just gets paid off, mind-blowing.
Yeah, that is amazing.
That's the kind of...
Sorry.
So those are the kind of financial tools where you say, well, can it come back? Where are these protocols going to go? There's a proposal right now to create essentially Terra 2, which isn't really, it's not a fork of a chain, it's a whole new chain, and they're going to airdrop tokens. And who knows if it'll succeed? Because now it's just any other L1 chain that doesn't have UST as its cornerstone. And maybe, I don't know, I'm hopeful.
Well, that's something I hadn't heard of that protocol, but that's sort of like an amazing thing. And you were talking about what attracted you first into crypto was basically this idea of decentralized finance and being able to I don't know, control your own money and also have these financials, helpful and necessary sometimes financial instruments, but not have somebody else in charge of it who just wants to leech off of you. Do you want to talk a little bit about sort of like the general idea that excites you about that?
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I just wanted to touch on a comment that Jimmy the Argentine made, which is that
too, yeah.
He believes people have lost more trust in Do Kwon than Luna. And I think that's by and large true. I've seen a lot of people rally behind the Terra builders as they're starting to think about what to do. Honestly, I don't know what's going through Do's mind. I don't know him as a person. He's posted some pretty provocative things and upset a lot of people. So it is what it is, but I think you're actually correct that the trust is lost in different places. But to get to your question, Lucas, on this whole idea that we have people along the way almost like leeches, taking their little bit as you're just trying to move your money. And I think the worst case real world example is these payday lenders, where basically they're charging you, insane amounts of interest it's like 25% a week, if I recall correctly, just to get your own money that you have already. And so you get people into this kind of death spiral of their finances where you can never get ahead because most of the money is being leached off to someone else who's taking it. And sure, they're offering a service, but at what cost? And so this is a place where, crypto, because it is irrevocable, the transactions happened near instantaneously. I mean, even Bitcoin, which is reasonably slow, transactions happen every 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to wait 10, maybe 20 minutes for your money to come through. Whereas traditional banks, you're talking 3 days, 5 days maybe. And for some people, that's a long time. And, if you have to put food on the table or pay rent, you'll make these kinds of trade-offs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as you said, I think that the sort of like the leeching part is a good way of putting it, and also one of the most destructive things I think that society has produced in the past 100 years. Yeah, so let's move on to I guess, because we can't go through every protocol that you're into because you're into so many. Although if you want to talk about any of them in particular, we can. I just want to sort of move to Elrond a little bit because I think a lot of people are who are listening are here for that as well. Do you want to? How did you hear and find out about Elrond first? Do you remember that?
It was definitely on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's more than likely something that Wesley posted because he was back then very, very vocal about Elrond. And I think the thing that I really appreciated about Elrond above everything else was the experience, the user experience, best in class. Everything from the app experience on your phone through the Maya app to, I think back then we had eMoon was one of the NFT marketplaces. That was, a great place. The staking experience was really good. If you've ever tried to stake Polkadot yourself, I mean, oh my God. So Elrond nailed that staking experience and that wallet management experience where others were kind of left in the dust. And I started to think about, well, what is crypto for? It's not just for tech geeks to be able to, move around bits that they call money. It's actually for people to take control of their own finances. And of any place that I've seen, Elrond is light years ahead in terms of the user experience and accessibility. And I think there's obviously challenges, and there's a reason that they're not a top 10 coin. But that really drew me to it. And one of the other chains that I was into very strongly, and still am, is Cardano. And it was almost the antithesis of Cardano from a couple aspects. So Cardano is very much, it's a solid L1 with very limited scalability on its L1. And for those who may not know, that one of the scaling mechanisms very common in Ethereum and that Cardano is bringing as well is the idea that you do certain transactions on the blockchain itself, the L1 blockchain, and then you achieve scale through either sidechains or L2s to be able to allow the chain to have full auditability. Anyone can download the full history of the blockchain and verify it. And by keeping the L1 small and compact, that allows that to happen. And so I think Cardano and Ethereum very much leaned into that direction. Elrond went a different direction and said, hey, let's make the layer 1 very high transactions per second. Let's make the layer 1 something that you can use and scale to. And they're bringing technology that not every chain has. I think Ethereum's been talking about state sharding for years now. They've been talking about lots of things for years now. Elrond has adaptive state sharding, which is a technology that allows them to scale. Sharding is basically the technology from Web 2 that people tend to use on databases and other web services to be able to scale as well. And so that was very promising for me.
And you mentioned some of like I said, I think the first intro, though I didn't do it in this intro, was I think especially, on any chain, I think this happens. People are very much becoming maximalists. Put really all their words where their money is. In such a way that sometimes we don't really want to see the problems that our favorite chain or our main investment has. And I think that's why you're such a great voice in this space as well, because you highlight a lot of these issues. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What sort of problems you think Elrond still has to overcome to actually become a top 10 coin, like you said.
Thank you. And I really appreciate that you're kind of calling out that there is value in someone being the skeptical voice. It's very difficult because it's easy to be part of the crowd and to be, yeah, my coin's the best. You get a lot of support. When you say something negative about it, you get the opposite of that. And I've been on the receiving end for multiple different blockchains in that. But the truth is, no blockchain's perfect. And everyone has flaws. So I think, a couple things about Elrond that I see right now is, as far as decentralization, it has best-in-class first-party apps. No one can argue with that. I think the Maya exchange is one of the easiest to use exchanges out there. It's accessible to people, even though the concepts are very complicated, they make it easy and fun to use.
My parents get it.
And I think, yeah, I mean, that's a tremendous testament. Are they busy farming LKMX?
Yeah, I made them farms. I mean, they're not as busy as they maybe should be, but yeah.
Got to get out in the sunshine and work.
Exactly.
Crops aren't going to harvest themselves. But that's the testament. I would never send anyone who wasn't tech savvy pretty much to any other ecosystem except for Luna or Elrond.
Mm-hmm.
And there might be others that I haven't experienced. And so while that's best in class, back to the challenge, I think the challenge is decentralization because you have a best in class first party app. And so it's difficult for other competitors to stand up their own decks. And so I know there are a couple, but they're definitely not at the same volume and the same polish that the first party DEX is. And if you contrast that with an approach that a blockchain like Cardano has taken, there is no official DEX on Cardano. And they took a long time to even get a DEX out. And there was a lot of pain because everyone had DeFi and they didn't. But now they have 3 completely separate different teams with DEXs that are up and running, and they've got more in the works. And so that's how it starts to be a little bit more anti-fragile. And not dependent on a single particular person or group or entity to build the products for it. And so I'm a little wary, even as I'm excited about the NFT store that's upcoming for Elrond, I'm wary about what's going to happen to Trust Market and Dead Rare and some of these other places that have built a business and really helped foster this ecosystem. So I think that's one area I see as a challenge for Elrond.
Yeah, I'm curious what do you think is going to happen? I mean, do you really think all the traffic just goes there and everyone else, I don't know, somehow adapts or dies? Is that something that you see? I mean, I know. I mean, the team keeps obviously saying that they value these builders and that their contributions are seen and heard, and they want to keep that and they value this decentralization. However, like you said, there is a large chance that everybody's just going to move there, leave behind, cheaper fees, whatever, all the things that businesses that have to sort of, have to get some revenue through these fees just won't be able to actually compete. And I haven't heard the plans, especially for the NFT marketplace, like what the Elrond team plans to mitigate that sort of danger. But yeah, I guess like how could you mitigate that?
I'll tell you how I'd do it. I have no inside information into what the Elrond team is doing, but I think it's a very similar problem to one that Microsoft faced with Windows and Office. You clearly want Windows to be the platform that everyone's building for, but at the same time, you want to build Office and have that be a best-in-class Office suite and continue to grow over time. And so there's this tension. And one of the ways that eventually it ended up working out was that they would expose the same APIs to everyone, and everyone kind of had a level playing field. And they were really just 2 different teams kind of working on building up these different experiences. And so I think taking a page from their playbook, if the Elrond first-party NFT store allowed a way to surface the inventory from other places, like Dead Rare, in their particular app, maybe they standardized on fees or did something that still allowed these other marketplaces to exist, but then to have it, sort of like an Amazon model where your inventory is shown there, and then it's on the different platforms to compete for the inventory and get people to list their NFTs with them instead. And perhaps they offer bonuses if you come directly to them instead of through the NFT store. Because I think the one thing the first party store gives is exposure, and we need more exposure here. Elrond's a fairly small community, and so that's tremendously valuable. But you want to do it in a way that supports the entire ecosystem, and I think that's one way you could do it.
And I mean,
So,
one tremendous advantage I think that that integrated marketplace will have is, as I understand it, basically from day one that will be available on the app itself, which is obviously amazing as a sort of feature. But it also, basically threatens to wipe out everybody else who's been building just because it's so convenient and so fast and probably cheap and just like right in your face. But yeah, I love the idea of sort of like a more aggregator marketplace idea that actually pulls different offers from different marketplaces and just sends you to the right place.
yeah, and we'll see what they do. I mean, they promised it in Q1, and it's not Q1 anymore. So
Not
I don't know
quite.
what's happening.
Any other particular sort of issues that you want to highlight, or is the decentralization sort of like your number one concern and second to
I
none?
think that's my number one, but there's two others that I'd like to highlight as well. I think the first is it might end up being a superpower, but right now, Elrond isn't heavily VC funded. You don't have a bunch of VCs pushing them out to get the awareness. They're also European, so they don't have as easy access to markets like America or Asia, at least in the mind share. And you can definitely see, I mean, Near has similar technology. They're more of a golden child even than Elrond is, even though I think Elrond's been around a bit longer. And so I think that level of whether it's marketing or VC support or whatever that touch is to get their message out there, they don't yet have that. And they haven't figured it out. And I think they've intentionally been focusing on building, and that's okay. I very much love that ethos. Cardano is focused on building. That's why I'm part of that community and really enjoy it. So that'd be another challenge I'd call out. And I think the third challenge is more of a dark horse. It's not clear to me that a high TPS layer one will actually be what survives in a blockchain. I think we just don't know. And so, some of the characteristics it has where you can only, validators only store 3 days of the last blockchain, and there's some other separate way to go and examine the full blockchain. That moves to me in a direction that's perhaps closer to the systems we have today than something like a Bitcoin or an Ethereum, where it is available for everyone to see. Now, I might just be being a purist, and maybe the market doesn't care in the long term. But 10, 20, 30 years from now, how big will the blockchain be? Pretty sure I can still copy the entire Cardano blockchain onto my hard drive. Not going to happen with Elrond.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Stefan said earlier that layer 2 is sort of the future of the blockchain. So there's definitely agreement in the crowd there. I guess last thing before maybe we'll jump over to some less serious talk and some more, I don't know, NFT stuff and other stuff. But obviously today the Ethereum bridge went live, which could be a huge boon to the ecosystem. And I just want to sort of like get your thoughts on what that might mean, what sort of the opportunities are, or, if you even think, is there a way that just nothing happens and that bridge is there and everybody's like, oh, all right, cool. Thanks for that bridge.
I mean, anything's possible. But I think this is one of the biggest releases since the Mara exchange last year that they've done. And the reason for that is it makes it very easy for people to take the money that they have, the capital they have on Ethereum. Ethereum's, number 2 in terms of market cap, and be able to deploy it to new opportunities. That's one of the reasons that I think Luna was so effective early on, was they focused so much on those bridges. And so you do everything, like you could bring the assets across, you could use them as collateral within Anchor, then you could borrow from Anchor, and you could then take the native tokens and use something as some other opportunity with them. And so it was very much a way for people to get into the ecosystem and to start experiencing it. I think eGold has a challenge where it's not available on all exchanges. It's not on Coinbase, it's not on Kraken, and a few others in the US in particular. And so it's hard for people to even discover it and start to use it. And so this is one way where pretty much everyone can get Ethereum. And if you've heard about it, it's just a small fee to go ahead and bridge it over. I think previously they had a bridge that was pretty expensive and a little bit manual, and so that hindered the adoption. And there are some great opportunities on Elrond. I mean, you look at the yield farming today, you're getting 80% just having AlchemX and stacking it. And yeah, it's an inflationary token. If they ever bring some idea of utility to the token, first class citizen, then who knows what will happen? I'm keeping my LKMX. I'm keeping it going.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're like Stephen and I talked a lot. The economistic. I'm sure you guys are familiar with each other.
Yeah,
About
we've had a few chats.
yeah, about the Loch Ness Mex monster, as he calls himself. Like the sort of idea that it really is crucial for Elrond to, now that there is that token has spread quite a bit, to figure out a mechanism to actually bring utility, use it in the decks, bring more options to use it, and just sort of like figure out that thing, and that is something that I think they've also announced that will happen shortly. So yeah, I mean, looking at the roadmap, and now that we've finally crossed that bridge, literally, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. It's the wine. But yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting stuff ahead. So I'm really I'm looking forward to seeing it. Yeah. So would you be up for a couple of games of chess, and then we'll maybe take some questions from the audience, and maybe I also did really want to talk to you about sort of like your journey in meditation, yoga, and that kind of stuff, and how that maybe like informs like your day to day as a good sort of like, because a lot of people go crazy in crypto and on the internet, like how that sort of like can help you balance some stuff. Yeah, want to play some chess?
Yeah, that sounds like a fun
Awesome.
time. If you want to set us up, we can
I
do
will
that.
challenge you now. 5-5, okay with you? And I'll give you time if there's ever any doubt of like running out of time. I can just, on this beautiful platform, give you more time.
Okay, awesome. I get to play white. Okay.
So yeah, let's talk about chess first. I know I told you I've been sort of seeing like some comments. You actually follow chess quite a bit, huh?
I'm interested in it. I played when I was younger, and so it's something that I've kind of enjoyed over the years.
Oh wow,
I wouldn't say I'm that good. I reached a point in my chess where, I kind of realized that in order to get good, I would have to study openings all day, and it wasn't something I was interested in doing at all.
It really, I mean, at some point you just need to do that. I mean, I don't play against the Grand Prix very often, so you'll get an attack here, I'm sure.
There'll be an attack, whether it's successful. Who knows?
Yeah, that's always. All right.
And this is definitely well beyond any any opening I'm used to. Let me see, what can I do here?
Do you follow the sort of going-ons in chess, like the tournaments and stuff like that?
Not very strongly. No, I'm always interested in who the superstars are, and I guess Magnus Carlsen is now the superstar in chess.
Has been for a long time now, right? World champion for years. Yeah, so let's talk about like you actually are a yoga teacher as well, on top of all the other educational stuff that you do. You also at some point decided to get into that. How did that come about?
Yeah, and I'd say, I no longer teach at the moment, but yoga's been a tremendously important part of my life. I think it's the one thing that helps me to remain a little bit sane in this world. I think you just trapped my bishop.
Not yet.
Damn it. Okay, let's do this. But it's, I think when I first was practicing it, I was looking for a way to kind of grow my yoga practice, and I took a yoga teacher training really just to see what it was all about. I had no intention of teaching at all, and it ended up that I absolutely loved the experience of teaching, and I felt like it was a part of something that I could give and I could share with the world. I don't know how, it very much seemed like it was an experience where every time it was extremely challenging. So I was constantly challenged myself in order to get to the point of teaching and get to the point of, it's not natural for me to do a lot of the public speaking. That's something I'm still very much working on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me do that.
I almost lost my queen there, by the way. I almost didn't see that you were attacking before.
I should have kept telling more interesting
stories. I know. You were so close. You were so close.
Okay, let me see if I can build an attack here.
And is that something?
I think you got this one.
Is that something that you sort of use in a conscious way to, I don't know, like with all the stress, with all the sort of, I don't know, I'm like, as soon as you have some amount of money invested in a market as volatile as the crypto market, I'm sure there's just like a natural, I don't know if stress is ever natural, but there's just like an amount of stress that is basically inescapable and unavoidable, right? And I just wonder if you actually make sort of like a conscious effort to use that as a daily routine or as something that you just have as a tool, sort of to I don't know, handle that sort of volatility, let's say.
Yeah, definitely. You can get wrapped up in spending all your time looking at the charts.
Yeah.
And it can be a little challenging. And there's, it doesn't really promote any kind of good. How are you going to take me there? What am I going to do? Let's do that. And so I think there's a lot about, there's one of the principles of yoga that in the Sanskrit is aparigraha, which basically means non-grasping. And the idea is that you can't, if you keep grasping for something, that's not the way to achieve any sort of enlightenment or happiness. It'll actually do the opposite. Mm-hmm. And a lot of crypto is very grasping. We're very much about, get the NFT mint, get the, the token that's going to go to the moon. Everything's going to the moon. And so I think that's a good balance to that mindset.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree. I mean, it's one of the things, like when the first lockdowns happened, I'd never really, I just like sort of been, I don't know, you always tell yourself you're too busy to be good to yourself, right? And for me, it was something that was certainly, it felt like I actually had some time that I could spend on something that seemed, sort of healthy and useful as a practice. That's a good move I totally forgot about.
So do you practice a particular style of yoga?
Well, yoga, I sort of like, I'm so, I always hate it. I'm pretty tall, and I always tell myself I'm like, I don't really have the body to do it. So yoga was something that I sort of did as for running, like just sort of stretching and that kind of thing when I did that. But meditation I really did on a daily basis for a good period of time at the beginning of the lockdowns. And then sort of, always sort of happens, I guess, where it's like, okay, now I'm working again or whatever, and now I'm too busy again to treat myself to this. But I just think it's so important, especially in this space, that you don't forget about that kind of stuff, right? That you do make a conscious effort to do something good for yourself, because it's so exhausting. And I also, I mean, like, I just wonder, like, you've worked in such a high stress environment, or I imagine anyway, big companies and especially sort of the fast environment of even Web 2 is very fast, and it's not a brick and mortar store where you have like your stuff. You trying to distract my queen? It's very sneaky.
I've got to pull out all the stops. What am I going to do?
Although I wonder if I don't think you can take actually. You probably just get made it. I probably could have just taken that. But so I just wonder like if you think that it's just something that more people, especially in this world, should try and use as a tool.
I think it's I'd say I definitely agree. Have no problem recommending meditation. I think it's a fantastic tool. It's a tool to discover more of your humanity, and more of, I think the really important things in life that go beyond what we get to experience and think about on a day-to-day basis. Man, your bishops are really everywhere.
They're nice, right?
Not from my perspective. No.
Stephen is saying he's getting PTSD. I'm sorry about that. Stephen, everybody I've played with is actually has been a pretty good opponent. I gotta say, you're very good as well.
I'm gonna raise the white flag on this one. Well played.
You too.
Did I raise the right flag? Is it?
Click it twice. That flaggy thing.
Oh, that makes sense. So you don't accidentally.
Yeah, you don't just resign. But yeah, so in practice, does your day involve like a morning yoga, evening yoga, whatever session? How do you handle the?
I used to do yoga 6 times a week.
Wow.
So that was kind of my thing, and I'd literally be spending 30-40 hours at the studio either teaching or practicing. We moved to Texas a little while ago, and there's not as much yoga as in California. So it's been more of a struggle.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
But I try. I'd say it's probably 3 times a week now.
Yeah.
And it's not as core a part of my life as it used to be.
Can you click on that rematch button? That's hopefully blinking.
Sorry,
awesome. No worries.
Yeah.
Wait, I said I'd play the King's Gambit. Will you let me play the King's Gambit?
The King's Gambit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I tried to play and failed.
Really?
Yeah, I'll accept. No, it's just when you try to go to Sicilian, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just do that move. I would normally like sacrificing my pieces, so I'm a little uncomfortable having you sacrifice yours.
Yeah, I hate when people do that to me too. So another thing that I wanted to, now you sacrifice the piece, that I really wanted to highlight at the beginning that I sort of forgot to talk about in the more serious part, even though it probably belongs there, is sort of the idea of getting women interested in the crypto space in an environment that is often very, very masculine, very, very, I don't know, not sure how you feel about the word toxic, but something like that, right? Where it's just really hard for women to have a voice, and sometimes, I'm not trying to generalize too much here, but that's something I'm really curious about your thoughts on or your experience first of all, of that, and maybe some ideas on what the crypto space, people in crypto, can do better to maybe address some of these concerns.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
I think, one of the aspects is.
Did I just blender my
perhaps
queen?
That's
unfortunate.
You may have, actually.
Yeah, I did. No worries.
You'll still find a way to pull it out in the end, I'm sure. You're a very good player. Wait. Yeah, so I think one thing that often we get caught up on these days is that there needs to be kind of perfect equality and kind of the numbers of people doing this and that need to match. I don't think that's the case. I think, generally people of different sexes have different proclivities, different physical and mental focuses we like to be, and I think that's okay. I mean, that's how society's built for people to complement each other, and it's obviously different people are different, so it's not take your demographic and therefore this is the way you are. So that's one way I want to start the conversation with is the goal shouldn't be, I think, to have 50% of women in crypto. I think that's the wrong goal. But I think as we start to think about it is every person who would like to get involved in crypto, do they feel welcome? Do they feel like they can, have an opportunity to contribute? And if they want to have a career, to be able to have a career in the field. I think that's where to start. And a lot of the toxic maximalism that we see is a tremendous turnoff. And we could say that, perhaps there's certain segments of the population where it affects people more, but, ultimately it chases away people who have lots of great ideas, regardless of their gender. And so I think that's a place to start, is to start forming those communities to be more intentionally welcoming of people.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Is there anything in particular that sort of you, I don't know, sometimes wish would happen, or how people can, I don't know, accommodate people who get into crypto maybe for the first time, tools that you've used that have helped, or that you recommend for people, and probably particular women to look at before or when making their start in the space?
Yeah, so I think, it depends where people are starting from. Like if you've never heard about crypto before and don't know anything about it, that's a different place. And often those kind of educational tools, YouTube is tricky. There's a lot of great stuff there, but there's also a lot of garbage that's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so, I hesitate to recommend YouTube as the first place you go, but it is where the best information is. Generally, if you can find a group of folks that you trust to some degree, that's normally a better place. And I know there's a lot of groups that do meetups. Let's not have that happen. Groups that do meetups, and so
my only hope.
I was just seeing some crazy thing happening there with that pawn.
Yeah, I've been banking on that for a while, but I couldn't make anything work. So I hope that you wouldn't see it for a minute and just do it at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it for a while, but now I've seen it, and I'm probably going to do something else that's wrong.
Yeah, I never saw the opportunity to do much about it, though. Yeah, one thing, and this is sort of like an interesting conversation to have, I think, which is, I'm trying to do things, which is a lot of the time, I think people get things confused when they're talking about equality, equity, like just sort of like the vocabulary is sometimes all over the place. But I think this is a really great sort of pointer that you gave, that any sort of maximalism about anything is really a turn off for anybody who doesn't. Oops. What am I doing? Trying to make sense of complicated topics while not thinking. What do I do? Oh God, this is horrible. While being well-intentioned in those cases, it sometimes can really be detrimental to whatever cause you're trying to promote if you get too caught up in oh my God, I am so bad. I could have taken that rook. What am I doing right now?
It's very hard to speak at the same time.
You just sort of get caught up in like trying to do the right thing, but sometimes choosing methods and tools that might not be the right one at the right time. And so I think the pointer, I think especially, and I think this goes for basically everybody in crypto, which I think is great, regardless of gender, is this sort of maximalism in any direction. and sort of being open to having a conversation at all times about different things, about being open to criticism, about sort of like being, my chain might not have everything right all of the time. And that sort of approach where you just give some, that's also very good. Give some, just some space for being open to criticism, I think is really important and a great point. And a conversation.
Yeah, and I think there's that kind of posture, right, of are we going to just go on the attack constantly?
Mm-hmm.
Which I tend to see a lot in crypto, and that's not a very welcoming. Even if there's tribalism, I think I saw that only 12% or 20% of people have ever used crypto. And so the audience to appeal to isn't the audience who's sitting on Twitter talking about, which coin they like. There's a much larger audience that you should be targeting there. Man, your bishops. I'm going to trade off bishops if we ever play again, like right away.
I clearly did not even see that my bishops can move backwards, so it can't be that dangerous letting me have bishops. But yeah, I think that's a great point. We can just repeat the position here. I'll give you a draw, no problem.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that's the best for me. I feel like there's maybe something more that I could do with this. Although, dang it, right. I don't know how I'm going to protect that queening square. That's my problem right now.
You could put your queen on e8.
Yeah, I could. I don't think that would be helpful. Oh, dang. We're really going to lose this?
So let's talk about another fun thing. I'll try to distract you more so you don't have time to think about good moves here. NFTs, because we touched on it a little bit. I know that you are at least in some of those projects. And by the way, feel free to, now would be a great time to ask some questions if there's anything that you would like to hear Vanessa's opinion about. But this is something that, I shared a little bit about how I got into NFTs, and I hadn't gotten into NFTs before Elrond, and I think Elrond makes it super easy to get into NFTs just because it's, not prohibitively expensive to mint them. You actually see them in your wallet right away. It's such a, especially now that they have added that function where you just see it directly in your Meyer wallet is just such a great feature. And so where do you see sort of the place for NFTs, and also what do you like? What are some of your favorite projects?
Yeah, so one of my favorite projects is Cybers in Action. They do the Neon Cybers and a few other different ones. And the thing I love about them is they're very community focused.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you're going to go there, aren't you?
I'll try. Oh, very good.
And that
I was threatening checkmate there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you could get your king out of the way, possibly. Man, this is more of a match than I thought it was supposed to be after I got your queen.
I'm trying. I'm struggling. I'm trying to trick. But it's not easy. You're very good, unfortunately. Sorry, but I interrupted. This Cybers in Action.
Yeah. Yeah, so the thing I love about that team, and Dennis, I had him on our show one time, and he's very unassuming guy. I love. I don't think that's what you wanted to do. I love the. Oh.
I'm sorry, that was a mean trick. I admit it. That was a dirty.
Oh well.
Dirty trick.
You've got to fight until the end, right?
I tried. And I this is the concept of the show. Distract people in the most important moments, just to trick them.
Just distract me with NFTs.
In evil ways to just win a meaningless game of chess. That's how petty I am.
Did you want to do one more game?
Yeah, I'd love that. And then yeah, we can wrap it up. Again, if there's any questions that you still would like to discuss, have us discuss, bring them on in the YouTube chat. But yeah, so there, yeah, your favorite project still, we're still at that, I think.
Yeah, so I think, I mentioned Cybers because of the focus on community and it being, really a project that it doesn't have a lot of budget, it doesn't have a lot of flash, but it just does, I think, really good in terms of the way they engage. So that's one. The other one I think is really interesting is the Faceless Many. And the reason I love their project is they're trying to do interesting things with NFTs. And so they recently launched the Corrupted, which was, an NFT follow-on to their Genesis collection. And one of the things they're doing there is they're actually hiding the attributes, so you don't know how rare something is, and having it disclosed over time. I wanted to go and do that. Okay, I'm not going to get to do that. And I think that's just interesting. Oops.
Take that move back. You have this like backwards button on the right, so you can get to castle there. Does that not work? It's also not sure.
That's fine. It's good.
I'm sorry about that. I'll go here.
Oh no, you don't mess your structure just because I did a dumb move. I saw one of the chess grandmasters do it one time because they do, I guess, these esport chess things.
Yeah, the Bong Cloud opening.
Not at a chessboard.
Yeah, probably Nakamura, Hikaru.
It might have been him. He does all sorts of funny things.
Yeah, he's. I mean, it's been interesting to watch chess sort of like turn into basically an esport during the pandemic, especially. Like it just got. I mean, I actually said in the description that I asked you about that. Did you ever see the Queen's Gambit show? Because that boom was huge for chess.
I didn't actually. I know it was very popular.
Yeah, crazy.
We don't have Netflix at home, so that's part of the reason.
Oh, you do like sacrificing things. Oh wow.
That wasn't a sacrifice.
That was. Oh, I'm just blind.
I was trying to get rid of your bishop.
that was very good. Yeah, I'm getting so distracted between chess and NFTs now. But
that's good. I'm giving you some of your own
I know my own medicine.
Okay, there's got to be a winning move here somewhere. Come on.
A winning move? That is ambitious. That is ambitious. Wow.
At least I can get your other bishop off the board, even though it's probably your worst piece on the board right now.
An undeveloped bishop? Yeah, you can have it. My king is now a soldier.
Lead by example, right?
Exactly.
Oh, that's not gonna work. It's just gonna get me killed again.
So in terms of NFTs, one thing that I think sort of the thing that actually excites me about it the most is, again, going back to sort of I don't know, my parents' generation, who really don't have any sort of idea what I was hoping you wouldn't do that. Oh, that's good. But can I go here? No, I can't. That is sort of like bringing in this. This is a crazy game. What the hell is happening? Can I go here? I'm gonna do weird things now because you're doing weird things. That sort of has the potential to bridge the sort of gap that is technology in Web3 by just
Oh, that was another one to do.
connecting people with, like, connecting art and people, right? And Web3. So it's sort of like what I'm trying to do is basically is like, what NFT project would interest my parents, and how would that look, and how could I get them to, I mean, like I said, they do have a Meyer wallet, but are they using it? Are they using DeFi? Are they actually making use of the space in the way that they could? No, of course not. And that is a shame. There you go. Good game.
You had mercy. Thank you. That was a lot of fun. Very challenging to talk and play.
Oh my God, it was.
I appreciate the opportunity.
That was so stressful. I was so stressed there. But yeah, so that's sort of like maybe a closing question, because we've been talking. I mean, one challenge that crypto obviously is still facing is just the question of adoption, right? Like, how do we get the rest of the people who aren't tech nerds, who aren't some kind of nerd, or in it for a quick buck, which is also probably not the kind of adoption that we want, because we have enough of that in the real world, and in the banking system and everything that we talked about. We sort of want to get over as a Web3 community, maybe. So is that something where you see any potential of bringing in people that might not have that sort of exposure, but sort of bridging them or onboarding them through things that they can sort of intuitively connect with?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question. I think there's multiple dimensions to it. The first aspect, where crypto maxis don't do themselves any favors, is the not your keys, not your coins crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that is an insane level of responsibility for the average human to take on, especially when you're not technically savvy. And so I think it's fantastic that we have, exchanges and yield platforms, even Coinbase's recent wallet, where they hold a part of the key so they can help you recover it.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. So those kind of technologies where we recognize that not everyone is responsible with their money, and that we do need recovery solutions in place. That's important as we look at NFTs and what happens if we're using the blockchain to record educational credentials.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't want to just lose it because you forgot your private key or your seed phrase. That's not a thing that we could have as society. So I think one thing is recognizing that some level of call them an intermediary or custodian is necessary for some large percentage of the population. But the other aspect to that is, we think very much in terms of crypto and how people engage with their Bitcoin or whatever, crypto and NFT it is. But you can have that be the infrastructure that finance runs on without people delving into all those details. One of the other reasons I'm so excited about Elrond is their partnership with Utrust.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're doing there is basically making the Elrond blockchain and the crypto an infrastructure component in a payment system for consumers and merchants. And so now you have a card, whether it's a credit or debit card, that's backed by the blockchain. You have merchant terminals that the user can use. So the user is really just using a credit card or a debit card, and the merchant just has this point of sale. But underneath it, you've removed the intermediaries like a Visa or a MasterCard that are charging you, 2% interchange fees or whatever the fees are in local jurisdiction. And you're producing something that's good for the entire ecosystem. It's good for the customer because their funds are earning staking yields or whatever while they're waiting. It's good for the merchant because they don't pay the fee, and the minute the transaction's gone, they start earning that yield. And so that's a fantastic value prop. Multi-sided market, difficult to get off the ground, but more things like that where crypto NFTs just become part of things daily life that we're used to in some other fashion. I think that's what very much is the path that we have to go down.
Yeah. I mean, do you follow the Cowatt coin and what they're doing in France with basically electric charging stations for cars? I think that's one of a very good example.
I haven't dug in as much to that.
Yeah, recommend that. Everybody can check that out. But I think it's another great sort of like use case for an NFT where you just hold an NFT in place of coins, and you're actually, it will be your lifelong ownership of the proceeds of that of the charging stations, which are already popping up all over France now, and will actually go live. So it's very exciting, I think, for the future of the blockchain to actually see these things now being implemented. And we talked about ZPay. We didn't, but Stephen and I did, and you trust, etc. Like there are cases now where we actually see things being built that you can, you'll be able to see that charging station charging a car in the real world, and you'll be like, okay, cool, I'm getting a part of this revenue through a token, and through an NFT I'm holding. And so I think, yeah, those are really exciting times, and I'm really excited to see where that's going. And I think, yeah, your point is excellent. NFTs are a great way of sort of, getting people into that as well, and having a unique token that you hold and keep earning. So,
yeah, because you're touching on like the core value prop of Web3, which is to share in the value that's created.
Yeah.
It used to flow to large organizations, and now it can flow to everyone. And what does that unlock when everyone's able to share in that value? I mean, who knows? We're just at the beginning.
Those are beautiful words to end on. So let's end on that. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for coming on. Thank you for bearing with me through the technical difficulties in the beginning. Thank you for bearing with me through the chess games. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Yeah, we'll see you all very soon. And yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Till next time. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you, Vanessa. I ended the stream.